Okay, Mr. Kwong here. Welcome to the second part of the lecture on UI and UX. Today we'll be focusing on UI. But I'm just going to start with this slide for a while. We ask you to think about your favorite app. Okay, what do you like about it? How does it present information? What makes it so easy for you to use? What makes you keep on coming back to use the app? Okay, so I'm sure you have some thought you already. So you might have thought of a favorite app. Please share with your friends when if possible. Okay, we jump straight into the UI part. Let's just look at the next slide now. Right, so just quick question, would you use this site? Alright, so if you look at the address of the site, it seems very clear. Paradisewithaview.com is a very nice address. But then we look at the layout, there are things that are very cluttered. Like for example, different font colors. As like if you count the number of font colors, you have one blue, purple, pink, green, white, yellow, and so on and so forth. And there are many other uh, elements as well. The photos are not well aligned, right? The photos overlap. This is an ugly photo here. Then you have some red boxes on calendar and mean that the particular day is unfortunately booked, right? So if you present information like this, right, is it useful to the user? Okay, then you have things like other elements that are not there. Like why do you need to have the free Wi-Fi button here? This is probably when the guest goes to the resort, then they'll click here. But this site is mostly for your customer to for a potential customer to make a booking on a site. So why do you need all these things here? Right? Then why do you have repeated days like this? Like for example, I don't get this. Is this booking my room or something like that, right? So it's very haphazard, right? Even though there's a lot of information there, but do you know why you want to what how do you navigate around this site, right? So there are a lot of considerations to be made here. Okay, so let's just show you some examples of websites that work. Okay, this website does not exist, but basically if you look at this trial website, right, would you use this site? I think this is much better. You have a clear focus on your photo, one photo just to rule them all. And it's talking about inspired Thai cuisine, voted New York's best Thai restaurant, and more importantly, right, you have the links to the various parts of the site that will be useful for the customer. Okay, like for example, if your customer comes to this website, right, they will want to know what you serve, and then where are your locations, okay, and where are you able to make reservations? Can I follow you on Yelp? Can I see your Yelp ratings? Can I see your Instagram posts? Can I see your Facebook posts, etc. Okay, so this is very clear, right? Then we show you a real website. The next one is LaSalle. So in this case, this is a art school. So the site is very clean. So and they have a very clean tagline here where the arts matter most. Welcome to Asia's leading contemporary arts and design institution. Then because it's a school, you want to know about their programs, what schools are under them, what are admissions and what's experience of a student, and so on and so forth. Okay. And of course, if you click this one anywhere on the website, you probably come back to the main page. Alright, and the photo is also very clean. Alright, it suits if they are trying to position themselves as a very sophisticated place. I think this website is doing quite well. Alright. Okay, so again, there's some videos for you to watch on cosmology. Okay, you either click from here or use the link inside the cosmology page itself. Alright, what exactly is a user interface? As the word interface goes, it's a connection between the user and the product. Okay, so this is the points of interaction. Okay, so for example, right, it could be a physical elements, things like buttons, fingerprint scanner, touchscreen. Okay, or it could be a digital products like a website's elements, clickable links, buttons, menus, etc. Alright, so all these are considered UI. So anything you interact with in order uh to have exert some control over that device or the application, okay, or the structure, right, etc. All this is part of UI. Okay, so there are two very important UI concepts you need to know. One is the mental model, the other one is the affordance. Alright, the rest of them they are put as additional information at the back. Okay, so that one I'll just quickly run through the five there, but the first two I'll spend a bit more time on it. Okay, so what exactly is a mental model? Okay, it is what the user believes about the system. It's built in the user's brain and referenced by him to make his life easier when using the product. Okay, it sounds very complicated, but if you think about it, right, a mental model is basically what you believe, okay, what you want the system to be like, right? And if I can get the system to be as close as what you want it to be like, right, it's easier for you to use. Okay, so for example, I'm sure all of us have this problem before. You go to your house, right? Your light switches are in a certain position. Alright, so in my house the left switch is for the toilet light and while the right switch is for the bedroom. Okay, this is because the toilet is to the left of bathroom. So this is a very common setup. Okay, so like if the door is on the left, then the switch is on the left. If the door is on the right, the switch is on the right. Alright. But then if you go to someone else's house or you go to a hotel, right, you will get confused. It will take a while for you to get used to it. At home, you can just go in. You just need to feel the switches on your hands, right? You can know which is the left, which is the right one, and you know that the left one is for the toilet, right hand side is for the bedroom. Okay, but if you go to someone else's place, right, where he's using a different layout, you will get confused. Okay, so this is what it means by mental model. All right. So things like this, like for example, right, you have these two sites look the same, but obviously here you have the URL. This is both on Safari on the iPhone. The URL is at the bottom. So at first, right, it was at the top, from the top to the bottom. Okay, shifted to the bottom. Okay, because the reason for this shift is that from the way we use our smartphones, right, we usually hold it around this corner here, and therefore it'll be easier for you to click the address bar and type in if it's at the bottom. Okay, but then obviously there are different users who have gotten used to the fact that the the URL bar is at the top, right? So then they were unhappy. So Apple had to issue a fix which allow users to switch back to the top if they wish to, right? Because this the mental model we have a lot of people have already built in their mental model to reach up to touch the address bar instead of reaching bottom, even though the bottom one is more convenient for us, right? Okay, so there are also other tools that we use. Like for example, left and right have different meanings. So usually because we know that right hand side is to advance and left hand side is to go back, right? So there's a decreasing, increasing, and backward, forward model here. Alright. So this is something that's very common. Okay, other things we also know that it's also about color choices, right? So for example, if you have green color, you expect it to be the right answer. Like for example, on cosmology, if you get the question correct, you will see green color. If you get the question wrong, you see pink or red here, which means you're in danger. Okay, and then yellow is caution, and then blue is free. Free here I think means freedom in that sense lah. So usually when you use blue color, it's used to represent things that are a bit happier. We will not use blue color to represent something that is meant to be heavier, or like for example, if I want to give you a warning about the danger of this website, I will not use blue color or green color because it is likely that you will trick your user into making the wrong connections, right? Okay, so if you have the right mental model, if it matches what it can be done, right? If it's good design. Okay, this one here is a bit hard to read, right? So basically, you want the right. If you know the user's mental model, right, you can match it to what they actually want, and then so your UI elements will match what can be done, and then so then you can make use of from this you can design the different characteristics and the affordances which we'll talk about later to give the user the right user interface. Alright, this will help to enhance its experience. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about affordance. Okay, affordance is a property or feature of an object which presents a prompt of what can be done with this object. Like for example, if a teacup, you have a handle like this, you know that this is meant for you to hold because the teacup is hot. Okay, with hot drinks, so it's for safety. Alright. Then you also have this kind of doors where you have metal plates both at the handle. So you see metal plates at the handle, we know that is the usual place to push. The metal plate is there to protect the door in the long run from wearing out. It's also more germ resistant. But in this case, the door at the bottom of the door, there is metal plate as well. So this means you could possibly push the door open with your feet. Alright, so things like for example, if you are working at a hospital or warehouse, right? Sometimes you see this at the bottom because users of that door might have their hands occupied, so they can use their feet to push the door open. Okay, so these are affordances. Alright. So you can think of things like handles, like carrying straps, etc. Like the way some of your handheld devices are shaped. You know that you're supposed to hold them in a certain manner. Like if you hold on to a pair of scissors, you know that the scissors is meant to be used. Most pair of scissors are meant to be used with the right hand, right? So there are also physical affordances like this buttons, up and down buttons. Then you have connectors at the bottom as well. So you know that once you see the connector bottom, you know that phone is supposed to plug at the bottom. Alright, then your microphone holes are there. You also know that if you want to speak clearly into the iPhone mic, right, you probably want to hold it such that the bottom is facing you. Okay, and so some guidance as well. Sometimes you want them to unlock the phone, but you will say that, for example, this is a look down to unlock. So this is for the new mask wearing one. Okay, so you give some guidance to the user on what they do, what they can do. Alright. Okay, so other affordances include, for example, your radio button. We know how exactly the radio button works. We have learned it during our web app. So we know that a radio button is a single selection. You cannot select more than one option. Alright. So people see radio button, that's how they react. Okay, then the next one is checkboxes. Checkboxes, you know you can make more than one selection. Alright, so this allows your user to make multiple options. So you put checkbox, you know that if you want user to only select one, you give them radio button. If you want user to select more than one, you give them checkboxes. Right? Okay, so we're going to go into some detail about types of affordances. Okay, first one here is what you call explicit affordance. Okay, so explicit affordance, your affordance mimics real life like actual button. Okay, bell, sorry. Okay, so in this case, it's very obvious what they have to do. Click here to create to act on something. All right. Next, you have implicit or hidden affordance. Okay, so this is not visible until certain conditions are met. Okay, so for example, if you know if there are some interfaces on your phone where you just need to press and hold on the option, and then more options will pop up. Okay, so this is an example of implicit or hidden uh, affordance. Right, or you need to select, for example, 6 songs with 6 items a cart before the special discount comes up, whether you want to have that special discount. Okay, so all those are implicit. Okay, next there are patterns. Okay, so pattern affordances on your phones, right? We things like if you look at this screen here, right, you see that okay, your news, there is a newspaper there. Okay, then your messages, it has basically what I call inbox. Okay, profile, you have a head. Settings always tend to have gear, right? Even though nowadays why we don't get gears in our smartphones, obviously, but obviously this is something that we recognize as a set as to signify settings. Okay, all right. So there's also negative affordances. Okay, so one way is to show this is to present information a way to show you that there is a wrong way or that is not that is currently unavailable. So in this case, right, let's say you haven't made any changes in the file, your grade the save button will be grayed out. Then you know that, oh, this is not ready yet. I need to go back to the top to check whether everything has been done or not. Okay. Next, you have false affordances. Okay, affordance as misleading, like underlining text to make it look like a link when it's not. Using inappropriate icons. Okay, so having the save function represented as a trash bin. Yeah, save function is usually this usually the picture of a diskette from our times in the 90s. So it looks like this square with a circle in the middle, right? So we know that's a save function. We know for sure that's not a delete button. Okay, so these are the considerations that we need to make when we are designing our product, designing our app. Okay. Okay, so from now I'm going to give you some additional details about UI design. This one may not be will not be so emphasized on the theory part. If you can answer the questions based on what we talked about beforehand, right? It should be enough. But I think in terms, let's say you want to do better design, right? These are the things you need to consider as well. Okay, color and contrast. Clarity of text is enhanced using appropriate contrasting colors and background and text colors. And then using contrasting colors to highlight call to action buttons. Okay, so in this case here, your light blue on dark blue is very clear to read. And then you also have like a darker shade of blue here for the background. And you see the Apple Pay button, right? So this are what I call to action buttons. When you click something, right, it triggers an action. So like for example, purchase, order, submit, all these buttons are called call to action buttons. So we use contrasting colors to highlight them that, oh, on this page, right, everything here you look at all the colors here, right, this Apple Pay button is much brighter than the rest. So it's clear what you have to do. Okay. Alright, then next, white space. Okay, refers to the spacing between elements of your UI. Need not be white color. If your website is black color, black background, then of course it's called. You can call it black space, but white space essentially means the same thing. Okay, related elements should be closer to each other while being more separated from unrelated ones. So for example, here I see that okay, you have your address here, then you have things here at the bottom. We'll pick up, okay, and deliver. This is the tagline. So there's some separation from the rest of the sections. Then for each of the section, there's free delivery above $20, get your clean press laundry. So this is one section because they're close together. It's further away from the other sections, which again have subsections within them that are close together. Then the next one is price list. That one, of course, has a big gap as well. Alright. So usually you want your user to read this first without thinking about the pricing. Okay, get them convinced that your site is your company is interesting enough before you read the price. Never ever put the price first, because you put the price off, people will be turned off right at the start. Alright. Okay, line spacing. Okay, it's important to ensure that you have sufficient line spacing. So typically, the wider the line, the wider the line spacing, the easier it is to read. Okay, because you're able to make out the text quite clearly and you can see from afar. So when you are designing things like this, right, you need to consider uh how far will your user be. Okay, if you are showing, let's say for example, you are doing a TV advertisement, right, you want your text to be slightly further apart because you know the user will be further away. If you're using a smartphone app, you know that you can actually, your user be holding the device closer to him or herself, so your text can be closer, right? But of course, it's also important to have some minimum line spacing here, lah. Like this case here, this is a bit too tight because your two lines of text are actually touching each other. Alright, and this is, to me, is a bit too far. Okay, but if I want to read fast, sometimes it's easier to just give me spaces like this, so I can quickly pick out the words. Alright, sorry for a typo here, line spacing, of course. Okay, next, visual hierarchy. Which button will you click first? Okay, I think, okay. So this one we talked about it just now. That this also linked to the colors. Which one will you click first? I think it's quite clear that the enter button stands out the most here. It stands out the most, you're more likely to click it here. Alright, so this, let's say for example, these are your two buttons, enter or leave, right? This is the primary button you want them to do, likelihood to do. And then this is the secondary button. Okay, so this is the second option. Alright. Okay, then so some visual hierarchy guidelines. So for example, in this case, right, you'll probably read this first. I will read this first before I read you, because this is more similar to this blue. Then I'll read this. Then this is easier to read before this one. Okay, so sometimes this one might be missed out. Okay, so this is how you use different font colors, different font sizes to emphasize different things. Okay. Okay, complexity and simplicity, right? They are not always opposing concepts. So something that's complex does not mean that the UI is poor, and simple does not always mean this is a good UI. Okay, just show you some examples on next page. Okay, simplifying, right, is basically improving the orderliness, right, by subtraction, removing unnecessary elements. Okay, what exactly we have here, right, is the map, is the London Underground, which is basically the London Tube, which is the version MRT, right. This was the old map in the 1800s, and then this is the current map. Okay, so the map on the left, right, it shows all the geographical features like common roads and then even the river, etc., right? But it makes it very hard, because then it actually shows you the right spacing between stations. So for example, if two stations are very far apart, you give them a very wide spacing. If not, you put them very near to each other. Okay, but this one wastes a lot of space, and it's very hard for you to trace where the lines are going. So someone decided to simplify it this way, okay, by making it into a more schematic type of diagram without actual reference to scale. So even when two stations seem to be printed side by side, right, they may not be side by side. It's just it's a clearer way of representing out the names of the stations and the routes. Okay. Okay. Complicating, right, is to improve the orderliness by addition of elements. Okay, so what I have here is that error messages on the website. So your 404 error. We realized recently websites try to be hip and then make the error messages more friendly. Like, oh, something went wrong, and click here to try again. Then they show you a nice coffee color spill. then something went wrong, try again to check our help center. So at least this one is not too bad. This is quite useless. Alright. But if you look at the example on the right hand side, right? We're sorry you can't find the page you're looking for. What could have caused this? We might remove the page. Your link might be old and not work anymore. You might accidentally type the wrong URL. So you give suggestions to the user to see what could be done. Or then you also can tell, okay, you might try to retype the URL. You might go back to the Starbucks homepage. You use a sitemap to see what you're looking for. If you want to give suggestions, you also can drop them an email. So this one, even though there's much more content, it provides more clarity to the user what is actually happening here. Okay, so then we talk about consistency. Consistency, right? You have your different element on the website. Does it do the same thing? That's internal consistency. Okay, do your web pages have similar colors? Do you use the same font and font size for headers? That's visual consistency. Are you using common elements like shopping cart icon, email icon correctly? Every other website is doing that. Are you using, like for example, Lazada, Amazon, Shopee all use the shopping cart icon to show it is the shopping cart? Do you use that? That's external consistency. Okay. Do you do things like, for example, your company logo at the top left hand corner, click that, you'll go back to the home page. Okay, because everyone is using it. So this is because everyone is using it, it becomes a mental model for a lot of people. So if you follow that, you are basically trying to ensure functional consistency. So this consistency. Okay. So basically consistency UI design leads to this few good things. Okay, easier interface for user to learn, fewer errors, reduction in cognitive load. Okay, it's easier for the user can just use the site without trying to learn your site. Okay, and then after this, it all this leads to a stronger brand image. Okay, conclusion for this chapter. UI and UX are not the same thing. Okay, UX is about researching what will enhance a user's time experience on your site or app. How do you want a user to how do you want your user to use the app? How do you want them to behave on your website? Okay, it requires you to understand the type of user you're most likely to have. Okay, UI is about designing a good interface layer between your user and your site. Yes, your site might you need to make use of the right colors, make it easy for users to do what they want to use. The buttons are all in the correct position. There's nothing too glaring, too blaring for them. Alright. So a good UX experience is one of the requirements for good UX experience. So a UX designer might not be a UI designer. Okay. So this is something for you to take note. Right. I think that's all for today. Thank you.